Hey, so, oh yay, we have yet another example of corporate criminal behavior. So, Consumer Reports has just put out a story about how all sorts of fruit juices from Whole Foods, Walmart, uh, and others have found high levels of heavy metals, including arsenic, in the fruit juices. Now, I don't want you to take my word for it, so go to Consumer Reports and check it out for yourself. But this is just another string of abominable criminal behavior done by the so-called legitimate companies and legitimate people. You have Purdue Pharma with the Stackler family, uh, starting the opioid crisis, and actually have memos, their internal memos, which is now being filtered out into the public, so that the public can see it from the Massachusetts court in Massachusetts. Uh, you also have Dow and 3M involved in something called C something, which has to do with the chemical used for Teflon, and how that's gotten into the environment, and as well as people when they use Teflon coated pans and pots. You have Monsanto with their glyphosate and other pesticides that they use. Then you also have Exxon. You have the fossil fuel companies, and you also have the factory animal farming industry, and the agro industry, who are just dumping toxins all over the place. Never mind their other criminal behavior that they are doing. So, uh, what will it take for people to really get up in arms and drag these criminals out, and the politicians who back them, and the media who backs them, by not reporting on these stories, or by downplaying? What will it take? The reason why we need regulations is to prevent this sort of stuff. Except we've had a very long time of regulatory agencies actually throwing out people who want to do the job, or cutting the funding for those people who actually want to do the job, and putting people in that will give lies, they'll tell lies, who are bought. What will it take? We now have pulled out the international intermediate nuclear forces treaty, and we have already reports that first strike capable small nuclear weapons are going to be finished in 2019. And well, no, it's 2019 already, so they're already available. So we have that. And on top of that, we have climate climate cataclysm. We have that. We have the environment, the biosphere, food, poison in our food, poison in our air, poison everywhere. We got domestic economic terrorism, international economic terrorism done by these criminals. What will it take, for you or the right wing? How about instead of shooting fellow Americans, how about you take those guns and start taking down the real criminals? How about you go over there and pull them off? Go to your Fox and pull those assholes. Go to your CNNs. Go to your Wells Fargo. Go to your Citibank. Let's go get the real criminals. Go to your go get your politicians, the true criminals. Go get your chief of police. Go get your judges and DAs. What the fuck is wrong? And when I'm talking about the right wing, I'm not talking about those who want to see the end times. I'm talking about those of you who actually want to have a life, who actually want to have their children have a future. And it shouldn't be just the right. It shouldn't be just. It should be all of us. We should all know who the enemy is. The enemy is the state. The enemy is corporate. The enemy is the millionaires and billionaires. It is the Koch brothers, the Mercers, the Trumps, and Soros. Yeah, that's right, Soros. I don't believe in in Soros. He's not a good guy. Mercer's not a good guy. Prince is what's his name? Prince, the one that started that mercenary company for the U.S. His sister's Betsy DeVos. The DeVosses. They're another bunch of criminals. Your Rockefellers, your Vanderbilts, your Rothschilds. All these criminals. Your Bloombergs. They're all criminals. Why aren't we taking care of them? Because right now they're doing everything but coming out and shooting us in the streets. How about actually going in and dragging them out and making them face trial? How about putting these true criminals away? And I'm not talking about Bernie Sanders, and I'm not talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I'm not talking about most of the freshman House, the new freshman class of the House. It's the ones that are incumbent and the ones that are picked by the establishment. Yes, they're part of the crowd. Kamala Harris, yeah, she's a criminal. Cory Booker, he's a criminal. Nancy Pelosi, she's a criminal. Mitch McConnell, he's a criminal. Every single friggin' Republican is a criminal. They are part of, they are the enemy. All of them. The FBI is the enemy. The CIA is the enemy. NSA is the enemy. The DOD is the enemy. Homeland is the enemy. The NSA is the enemy. The DEA is the enemy. The entire Trump administration, enemy. All of the Senate is enemy. 90% of the 90% of the Democrats enemies. The entirety of the corporate media enemies. The Cato institution, enemies. Alec is the enemy. Koch brothers is the enemy. Those billionaires from Las Vegas, the enemy. Your Wal-Mart, the enemy. The food companies that produce the so-called food, which they are poisoning us, they're the enemy. ExxonMobil and all the fossil fuel companies, the enemy. The fracking industry, the enemy. Your automakers, the enemy. The energy sector, the enemy. The so-called think tanks and institutions, whether they're right or the quote-unquote left, but really are just corporate centrists, and they're not even centrists, they're just as bad as the Republicans. The ones that started and funded by billionaires and corporations to give us bullshit and lie to us and feed us poison, they're the enemy. The stooges that are like what's his name from that Canadian idiot who's supposed to be a social a psychologist, Peterson. He's the enemy. Types like those, they're the fucking enemy. They're the ones propping up a system that is killing us, that's robbing us, who is taking away our literal future. And if you have kids, and if you really love them, and you want a future for them, then understand who the real enemy is. Understand who's actually killing us. Who's actually causing us all the stress and worry and pain and the division. Who's pointing the finger and saying, oh, this is the bad person, which is just one of your fellow Americans, and you're going after the fellow Americans who have no money, who have no power, who have no political position or social position. While the true enemy is going around with you allowing them to go kill you, to poison you, to take away your future, to take away your potential. The true enemy lies with all those I have stated. It's time to think about it this way. If you love life and you want a future, then know who the real enemy is. The one who's been doing it for centuries, going back thousands of years, causing every war, causing every tension, every racial tension and division. Those are your enemies. Whether they are in England, in the UK, or in France, or the United States, or all through Europe, they are your enemies. Whether they're Australian, they are the enemy. The enemy always has legitimacy. And that legitimacy is paper thin. And the only way they prosper, the only way they can go and continue to kill us and subject us, is by us not taking action. It's time to take action, because time is running out. And if you love life and you want true liberty, true common sense liberty, and you want a bright future, then we have to go after the true enemies. We must force them to face their crimes. We must put them away. And we must deal with them harshly.